in-laws calling the police on each other. What is this, an episode of Real Housewives? I wouldn't actually know because I've never seen that show, but maybe you guys can tell me. Happy apple picking day! Really quickly, our weekly disclaimers. You know we gotta. If you want a chance for your story to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send it to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And as a reminder, we all come from different branches of the apple tree. And what that means is that we all grew up with different experiences that shaped our perspectives of the world. So we're going to have different opinions on things just because we all have had different experiences. And maybe you didn't experience something that will let you see a story in one proper lens, and maybe someone that you're talking to in the comments had the same kind of issue. And all this really means is that you should never shame someone for just not knowing something or not experiencing something. And none of us are ever too old to learn something new. Maybe you'll learn something new, maybe you'll teach somebody something new, maybe you'll teach me something new. So just keep that in mind as we're discussing in the comments. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for insinuating to my husband's kids that he's broke? I, 28 female, have been married to my husband, Rob, 52 male, for 4 years now. My husband's late wife died 1 year before we met, and we dated for 2 years before marriage. He has 2 children, 28 Madison and 26 Brett. Note, I'm not calling them my stepkids because they've explicitly told me that I'm not their stepmom. Just their dad's wife. I didn't play a part in raising them, so I'm okay with that. It's always been pretty tense between us, and I've tried my best to be kind to them and have been generous when I can be, but they're very cold with me. Being a child of divorce, I can partially relate to a parent moving on, so I'm just trying not to force anything. Madison recently got engaged, and we're excited about it. Everyone was over recently, and she asked about a wedding budget from us, and Rob told her he was able to contribute $10,000. She did have bigger hopes for her wedding than this, so she was upset and kept asking for more. Rob, however, is still working hard on building his savings back up. Before his late wife died, he basically wiped out his cash savings, and he had to cash out his 401k, and he even took a small mortgage on his house to cover medical costs as well as life expenses since he had to cut back on working. Eventually, he even had to drop that job for a more flexible but lower paying one. So in reality, this 10K is actually very generous from him. Rob went to run an errand, and then it was just me and his kids. Madison then asked me if I'm going to give in any additional money as to what her dad was giving. I told her we're a marital unit, and that's what we discussed together as a reasonable amount to contribute. So that's the amount that we're contributing together. Madison then sneered and said, I should have known. Obviously, you married an older man for what he had, not for what you could give. I knew she didn't like me, but this was the most flat out rude thing she's ever said to me. I kind of lost it and said, excuse me? Who do you think's been paying the second mortgage your dad took out to pay his debt? The truth of the matter is, I make way more than her father by a large margin. I have no debt, and I've been paying 70% of the household bills the whole time we've been married. The $10K we were giving her is available because I've been able to subsidize her father's living expenses the last few years. I made it clear that not only am I not a gold digger, I'm literally wealthier than my older husband. But she just rolled her eyes at that, called me stuck up, and stormed out. Then she called her father later and said that I told her I blamed her mother for being sick and not having a better wedding budget. He was too broke to give her anything at all. I told him what actually happened, and he's been very upset with her, but also said that I shouldn't have shared his financial details with his kids. So I just need to know, am I the bad apple? So as we know, I don't have kids. I've never been in a blended family or anything like that, so I definitely want to get some input from the people who actually have experience with this kind of family dynamic, because I'm kind of going back and forth between good apple and bad apple. And it's not that I'm so sorry. I actually mean good apple and crab apple. I misspoke. I caught myself. I misspoke. It's not that I think there's anything wrong with what she said. I don't think there was anything wrong with her defending herself. I more so don't like know what the appropriate boundaries would have been. Like the husband was like, you shouldn't have shared my financial stuff with the kids. Is that like, do you guys agree with that? Like, should she not have said that? I don't know what the social norms in this area are. Again, we're all different branches of the apple tree. I don't have that experience. I don't know what's crossing a line and what isn't. So like, I feel kind of obligated to go more towards crabapple, just because the husband was like, I wish you didn't say this. And remember, when I say crabapple, I don't necessarily mean she was in the wrong. I just might not have liked the way she approached something. So if what she said or how she said it is upsetting her husband, then I'm, without like knowing social cues and social norms in this kind of family dynamic, I'm more kind of on the fence to side with the husband, or more inclined to side with the husband and say maybe crabapple, because yeah, absolutely, say something, stand up for yourself. I think Madison is a bad apple. First of all, $10,000 is a lot of money. That is a life-changing amount of money. Crazy. Not being grateful for that is wild to me. Absolutely wild to me, first of all. Second of all, with the Madison thing, I'm like kind of rambling right now. To like go out of your way to be cold towards your stepmother and then have the audacity to ask, what are you giving me for my wedding budget? To explicitly tell this woman, you are not my stepmother, but what are you paying for my wedding budget? Like, that's crazy to me. I hate it. I hate everything about it. That's gross behavior, just gross. So I'm not saying at all that the wife shouldn't have said anything or nothing, you know. I definitely think she should have like made a comment about, this is kind of inappropriate, or what you said is like really uncalled for. Like, definitely call Madison out for being the brat that she is. But because the husband was like, you shouldn't have shared this financial information about me, I'm inclined to go crabapple and wanting her to have stayed more along the lines of like, this is our relationship and this is the relationship that you chose for us to have, and so these comments and these requests are really inappropriate, instead of divulging the dad's information without at least talking to him first. And I definitely think that some of you guys like in this kind of family dynamic can change my mind if you think like, no, definitely she was just completely justified, good apple all the way. Like, I do think that you guys could change my mind. I just don't know enough about these dynamics to have an opinion outside of what the husband would have wished to happen, if that makes any sense. And like, that feels fair to me. It feels fair. So I definitely am gonna be looking forward to what you guys have to say about it, but for now, I'm going with crabapple. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for refusing an electric car from my father? I, 15 male, am fighting with my dad about not wanting an electric car. He's always telling me how good they are, and he has one, and I'm turning 16 soon, and it's time to start looking for cars. I'd really appreciate it if he bought me a car, but I've expressed that he doesn't have to. I have, however, told him I don't want an electric car and listed out many reasons that I don't want one. I don't like the way they look or sound. I don't like the fact that you have to charge them. I don't like how they roll back whenever you take the foot off the gas. All these things. I've expressed very clearly that I also don't want a new car, and I'm perfectly happy with the cheap used car, because a car is a car. Whenever we talk about cars though, it's now always a fight. Am I the bad apple because I refuse to drive an electric car? Now I will say that there are some clarifications that this kid puts at the bottom. And the reason I'm not reading all of them out is because a lot of them don't make sense. A lot of the reasonings that they already put don't make sense, and I'll tell you why in a second. But like, some of these include like, if I get an electric car, I have to pay for the constant software updates you pay the dealership for. What? The only like software updates that, like, I just bought an electric car, for those that don't know. I just bought one like a week ago. The only software updates that you like pay for, to my knowledge, if I'm wrong, someone let me know down in the comments, because I only know about the one that I get. But like for Tesla, because I just got a Tesla, the only software updates that I'm aware of that you pay for are like when you're adding self-driving. Right? Like, my brother has had a Tesla for 3 years at this point. He's never paid for a software update. She has to pay for raised insurance prices, but my insurance, like from what I know, my insurance, my brother's insurance, they all like went down when we got electric cars. So I don't know what that means. Also saying that she has to pay for the install charger. So like, it's not that I don't think that her little update is important. It's that a lot of the things that she's saying in it just don't factually make sense to me. And it just sounds like a lot of people in the comments were telling her that she was wrong. And she was like, look, like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's up there if you guys want to go read them. But I like am already going bad app on this for a few reasons. First, actually, you know what? There's really only one reason. And a lot of teenagers might not like this, okay? When your parents are willing to make a big purchase for you, like a car, like you know, if they're planning on getting you like a new smartphone, I know it's not as big as a car, but like, go with me here. I feel like you say thank you, you know? I just think it's really kind of entitled that someone wants to get you a brand new electric car and you're like, but I don't like how it looks and sounds. What? and it's not even, you know, as an adult, I can see like if the dad's like, no, I want to get an electric car, it probably has something to do with the fact that like there are tax write-offs for those things. There are utility write-offs and discounts and things like that that you get. You know what I mean? Like, it's not for the kids that aren't in the adult world and don't really understand. Like, there's a lot of adult things and bills that go into the kind of car that you purchase and like what that means for your utility. So like one of the biggest reasons that I got an electric car was because gas prices where I live, wild. Absolutely crazy. Like, I'm so excited. So excited. I've looked at my brother's electricity bill that has barely changed since he got an electric car, right? His electricity bill is just like a little bit more up each month. Cannot even compare to what I would pay for gas on a regular basis. Sorry guys, my watch keeps buzzing and it's like getting nervous. It's stressing me out. So like, if your dad is saying, I will get you a vehicle, but I want it to be an electric car, there's going to be a reason for that. Also saying like, oh, well, I want an electric car, but I don't want it to roll back every time it stops. My car has never done that. I don't know where you're getting that from. My car has never done that. But like bottom line, again, I think it's really rude for a teenager like to be like, oh, you want to get me a brand new car, but I think that one's ugly. Like, ugh. Like it reminds me of that Sweet 16, like, but mom, I wanted the blue Mercedes, not the pink one. Like that's what it reminds me of. And also like if your dad's saying like, no, I want to get you a car and I want to get you a new car, the reasoning again is probably also like, it's really funny because you're like, well, I'll have to pay for the repairs, I'll have to pay for this. Well, like if you get an old beat up used car like you're saying you want to get, that's going to have way more repairs that it's going to need in the near future than a new car. So like again, the reasoning just doesn't make sense to me in my brain. I mean, if someone disagrees with me, definitely let me know down in the comments, but I just feel like this is a really entitled mentality to have. And I feel like you should be a little bit more grateful to your parents because there are a lot of kids that like would dream of that problem. You know what I mean? I would not fight with your dad about it. Like, he's really doing you a solid. So I'm going bad apple. Like, this is a really big, privileged first world problem. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for making my mother-in-law uncomfortable? My wife, Tara, is lovely and wonderful. Tara escaped from her little Midwestern hometown and ran to the coast the absolute moment she could. And I'm pretty sure her mom took that very personally. So my mother-in-law is very emotionally immature. Tara read that one book about immature adult parents and she finally understood her family dynamic in a way she never did before. My mother-in-law's not a bad or evil person. She usually means very well, but she's kind of self-centered, I guess. Like her first thought process is always, how do I feel about this new information, and never considers other people. Tara and I bought this little starter home last year, and of course, my mother-in-law invited herself over last week. This is something that's very on brand for her, and we just like to kind of pick our battles in the family, so we just let her. Her mom, who again is not terrible, just has bad emotional regulation and boundaries, shows up and drops her stuff off in the spare room and immediately starts giving herself a tour. Again, we actually hired a cleaner before she arrived, so we wouldn't worry. Annoying, but that's life. So she's wandering around and comes to our bedroom, and I have a jumbo-sized tub of generic Vaseline next to my bed. I use a nose CPAP when I sleep, and my lips get very chapped, so that's what it's there for. She picks it up and makes a really weird face and says, almost direct quote,
"Oh, well, I know what this is for."
I just responded, "Oh, that's for chapped lips. It's not like I jerk." Apparently my timing was good because my wife laughed, but my mother-in-law did not. Then for the next 3 days, she kept asking me, "Are you gonna be gross again?" anytime I try to have a normal conversation. I said over and over that she was the one that made the joke, and her response was always, "Yeah, but that was a joke." Like what I said was totally serious or something? Like, I don't know. And I guess it was. I mean, I was telling the truth, but I was only bantering because she started it. I didn't even invite her to my bedroom. Anyway, she brought it up over text to Tara, and there's subtle pressure from her to just apologize, but I don't think I did anything wrong, so am I the bad apple? This is so interesting. I think that a lot of people might have different opinions on this, maybe. First of all, I would have picked the battle of mother-in-law just going into my bedroom. Like that, no. No. I would have picked that battle for sure. Second of all, like I do agree with this person. Would I have acted the exact same way? No, and I'll explain in a second. But if mother-in-law's gonna like pry into private things or like things that you have in your personal space and like make little insinuations or make little jokes or blah, 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 like, you know what I mean? I don't see anything wrong with firing back and making her uncomfortable for bringing it up. Like, it's not like, I don't see it as this guy just making her uncomfortable to make her uncomfortable. Like, no, he's making her feel bad for bringing it up. Like, she was trying to be crude. She was trying to like point a weird finger. I don't know. And he was just like, no, how silly of you. No. Now, I will say, I'm only gonna preface this with like my father-in-law has had a stroke, so like there's not really a filter there. And there have been some inappropriate comments in the last, like since it happened. And so I have had experience in a way, but so I don't blame this guy. I just wouldn't act the same way. Like, I usually go for like, no, inappropriate comment, inappropriate joke, don't want to hear it, you should not be doing that, like just kind of reinforcing that. Will it help? I'm not a medical person. I don't actually know if he can help it with the stroke. But you know, just because I would have acted differently doesn't mean I think this guy is in the wrong. I'm gonna go good apple for sure. I don't think there's anything wrong, again, with basically just shaming the mother-in-law for being crude about personal space things. I'm gonna go with that. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for threatening to call the police on my daughter-in-law? My son and his wife have been married around 7 years at this point. They have 2 children. All of my children are out of the home and living their lives. My husband and I are still working and will probably retire in about 10 to 15 years, so around 70. My daughter-in-law and I got along much better before the kids came into the picture. They live about 30 minutes away, and she's always trying to drop them off. I thought my son was in on this too, but no. I sat them down and talked to them about this, and he had no idea this was happening. I showed many texts asking for me to babysit, and he was under the impression that I only saw them twice a month and not 16 times a month. Apparently, she's been dropping them off with me to go hang out with people, and my son was under the impression she was taking them with her. I started to communicate in a group chat with them so that everybody was on the same page, and I only respond to her in the group chat. And if she starts to spam me with texts about it, I throw a screenshot in the group chat and just have my son deal with it. We have talked about it, and it comes down to her wanting her kids to have the same relationship with me that she had with her grandparents. In short, I explained that I'm still working and will not have that kind of relationship with her kids. I can't have the kids every other day just like she went to her grandparents as a kid. We agreed to every 2 weeks to have a grandma day. This went fine for about a year, but my son's now traveling for work and she's at it again. The time difference with him working makes it very hard to have it shut it down when it happens. The other day I was home for about an hour where she just showed up at my house. She wanted me to babysit while she went shopping, and I had enough at this point. I told her, for sake, I have my own life and I'll not be the cookie cutter grandma that she wants. And if she tries to leave her kids with me from now on without my agreement, I'll call the police on her for abandonment. She called me a jerk and stormed off. My son called trying to smooth it over and saying that I might have gone too far, but I don't know. Am I the bad apple? This is one of those things where like, it's gonna be really hard for me to not put like my own feelings into this. Because I don't want to be a hypocrite about it. It just kind of breaks my heart, you know? Like, I would be so upset if my grandma was like so against hanging out with me that she was gonna call the police. Oh, wow. I wouldn't go bad apple because even though like morally I want to, but no, I get it. I think that like everyone has a different idea of what family and close family and family relationships and dynamics should look like. And I think different families and different family dynamics have, you know, different levels of like how close they are, you know? Like my parents call me every day around dinner time. Every day. I'm not kidding. I was at their house all day today and they're probably still gonna call me in a couple hours around dinner because it's what they do. And they're gonna ask me what's new and I'm gonna say nothing because I was just with you. I was just with you for 5 hours today. But that's just what they do. And I call my brother all the time. We're very close. I know not everybody has that with their sibling. So I just know that like different people have different kinds of dynamics. And just because she wants you to have a certain kind of dynamic does not mean that you have to. That doesn't mean that she's entitled to that time of you. Would it be nice if you were able to have that kind of relationship with your grandkids? Yeah, I think it would. But even though she wants you to be that cookie cutter grandma that you put, you don't have to be. You know, that's your choice. And I might not personally agree with the situation of, you know, like, I'm not going to be that grandma for you. I'm going to call the police. Like, I might not agree with it, but I don't think that, you know, that's her right. That's her time. That's her house, that's her home, it's her life. And if she has different priorities in her life than being the cookie cutter grandma, then that, again, I might not love that personally and agree with that personally, but I don't think that makes her like in the wrong of the situation, you know? Like that's absolutely her right to have those priorities. I'm kind of teetering crabapple because of the whole like police thing. But I don't know if that's just, like, I think that's just my own feelings about it. Maybe I will go good apple. Cause no, she's right. Like, legally, if someone is saying you cannot bring your children here and then you just drop them off, yeah, that is abandonment. Like, you can't do that. So I guess I like, again, and I think this is just a good lesson to everyone that you can think someone's like a good apple and that they didn't do anything wrong, but not agree with them. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go good apple because she's right. You know, that is, you can't do that. You can't just drop your kids off places and like, okay, see you in a few hours. Like, if you don't have agreement and you don't have, it's not okay. That technically is abandonment. You can't do that. So I'm gonna go good apple, even though that kind of hurts my heart a little bit. But it's okay. It is what it is. Everyone's entitled to their own boundaries and their own priorities, and yeah. So I got 2 good apples, a bad apple, and a crab apple. I never remember. Is the curse 2 crab apples, a good and a bad, or 2 good apples, a bad and a crab? Can somebody go back and let me know? We've been doing this too long. I don't remember. Shoot. What did you guys get though? Did you get something similar or different? Or let me know down in the comments if there's something you really disagree with or really agree with. You know I love to hear all of your responses. Or read, not hear. That makes more sense. And for your well wishes today is National Hamburger Day. It's also Beef Burger Day and Brisket Day. So if you are someone that is a carnivore and you love meat, this is your day. You go thrive. my guys. Like, you have the best day. I'm gonna go to Cookout and I'm gonna get me a good double cheeseburger with cheese, ketchup, and mayonnaise with double Cajun fries and a mint Oreo milkshake. That's what I'm gonna do to celebrate. But if you don't eat meat, that is okay, because I still hamburger. You can go get you a veggie burger or a tofu burger or whatever it is. What is that? Impossible burgers. Those are not bad. I've had that before. Not bad at all. You can't even tell. So whatever kind of burger that you enjoy, I hope you get the best one today. Like, you deserve that. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.